I'm here with Zuberi from the Pierrefonds-Dollard constituency, and you're running in the next election as a candidate for the federal elections.
For re-election, yes.
For re-election, yes. I have a few questions from my followers, and just so that everybody is clear, Francis and Samir had these questions in advance so that they were able to prepare. Are you comfortable with the vaccine passport? People feel a heavy presence of government in their lives already. Some feel that this will jeopardize their freedoms. Many feel it's an overstep on the part of the government, even though they are vaccinated. And I understand that it's a Quebec jurisdiction, but what is your position on this? Are you comfortable? Are you not comfortable?
Well, my position is a position of my party. And my party, the Liberal Party, we feel that, that protecting Canadians, ensuring that everybody is safe, is of the utmost importance. We actually do support a vaccine passport. We support the province's endeavors to protect Canadians in whatever fashion they choose. We're also working with the provinces and territories to ensure that Canadians can have proof of vaccination if they want to travel outside the country.
Okay, thank you very much. Canada has gone from being the number one healthcare system in the world during the 1980s to being number 30 amongst industrialized countries. We can all agree, I think, that the healthcare system needs a bit of a boost, and the whole pandemic was based on the fact that the hospitals shouldn't be overrun. So is there anything that we can do in that department, even though Quebec is in charge of our healthcare system locally?
Exactly, as you said, the provinces administer healthcare, but we our Liberal government would support, and we always do support, the healthcare system. Our system is something that is the envy of many countries in this world, and we are fully supportive of the system. In terms of what we will do for the future, we are investing in ensuring that Canadians have family doctors, in expanding virtual healthcare to navigate and to support Canadians during this unique situation and pandemic.
How would you do that, though? How do we get, I mean, I know a lot of people can't get a family doctor. How are you going to do that?
Well, that's through funding for healthcare, new family doctors, and also healthcare workers.
Okay. The nurses in our pandemic, in the current pandemic, have been struggling. Nurses and doctors, they're overworked, and I guess this would be part of that funding to help them out?
It's for the entire healthcare system and workers in particular, including nurses and doctors.
Okay. Cultural references. It's been a big week in the news. I'm going to just read this question straight out. Canada's Minister of Women and Gender Equality says her mention of the Taliban as our brothers during the press conference yesterday is a cultural reference after receiving criticism for her choice of language. When asked later if the term brothers reflected a softening of the government's approach to Taliban, she responded, hardly. The Taliban are a terrorist group, and yet they claim to be Muslims. She said, the reference to brothers is a cultural reference, of course, but let me be clear, we do not support the Taliban. We are horrified by the hard-won gains of the last 20 years are at stake. What is your feeling about this person, considering you're Muslim? How would you address systemic racism in our community? Because that's been a big thing for us in the last couple of years.
Well, there are two questions there.
Sorry, yes, there was. Sorry.
So first off, the Taliban is a terrorist organization, period. There are no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Myself, I have served in the Canadian Army in uniform for 5 years. My thoughts are with my brothers and sisters in uniform and with the Afghan people. That's my feelings on this matter.
Okay, and we've all been to. I mean, I've seen you at different rallies for racism. How can we further address this issue in our community, because it's a hot topic and it's an important one?
Certainly, and we've seen the unfortunate rise of hate and hate crime towards communities, visible minorities throughout this pandemic. Many communities have been targeted, unfortunately, from Asians to Black Canadians, to the Jewish community, to Muslims. People of many different backgrounds have seen the rise of hate and intolerance. We as a government are committed to addressing that. We have an anti-racism secretariat. We're also providing $45 million in funding to combat racism through our anti-racism strategy. That's something that we as a government care about and are addressing concretely.
Can you expand on what the anti-racism strategy is?
Certainly. It's a multi-pronged approach to educate Canadians and to create fund initiatives that address discrimination and help share accurate narratives about minorities.
Okay. Education is key, I
100%.
think. I happen to think. Unemployment. Many of our followers asked why unemployment benefits are still being issued since May when the cases have lowered dramatically of COVID. Why would the government choose to continue to provide benefits when so many businesses are short of staff? Can you clarify what changes to the CREB and the CRB? Why is there a benefit? Why was there a benefit for youth in our community who live at home with their parents during the pandemic? So I guess it's basically, there's 3 questions in there, and I guess that the point is there's a lot of funding that went out to youth that were living at home with their parents. That didn't seem to make sense to a lot of the followers.
So when we were in government and we were faced with the pandemic, as all Canadians were, one of our top priorities was to ensure that we as a country can navigate this pandemic. First off, with protecting the health and safety of Canadians, and secondly, to ensure that Canadians have food on the table. And that's why we created a number of programs to support Canadians. We supported small and medium-sized businesses to maintain the link between employer and employee and to ensure that businesses remain alive throughout the pandemic.
Right.
We also supported Canadians in general to ensure that Canadians had food on the table and to ensure that basic expenses were being paid. In terms of the programs, and the programs are being whittled down, have been whittled down. They were absolutely necessary at the time.
For kids, though, that are living at home with their parents.
For young adults, who were in the workforce, who
maybe work part-time during school,
who were gaining an income and could not find jobs. We were there for all Canadians.
Okay. Some social media companies have recently labeled posts by members of the Liberal Party as false and misleading. Twitter stated that a video was manipulated to discredit another party. What is your view on these tactics, and how do we correct them?
Well, the good thing is, and I encourage viewers to look into this further, but we actually posted the full video of Erin O'Toole on our social media feeds, and we did put forth an excerpt which was an accurate representation of what Mr. O'Toole did say, and we encourage our viewers to look at the whole video and make their own determination on that.
Where will they find that? On the Canada.ca?
No, not on the government website, but on the Liberal Party website. Mr. O'Toole's unedited full video. Okay,
so check that out, guys. I wanted to thank you for coming out. That was very gracious of you. And I wanted to remind everybody that you can vote by mail, but you must register very shortly. We don't have the dates on that. I didn't know that before I started this video, but we need you to get out, check the sites. Where would they find that site, the link to the voting by mail? Would it be on the Liberal
Elections
site?
Canada.
Elections Canada. Okay, Elections Canada will have that link for you. Register to vote by mail if that's what your choice, and if you're feeling anxious about it. Democracy is in play. It's time to get out and vote. It matters who you vote for, get to know who you're voting for, but the point is, please vote. Democracy is very important, and about 30% of the electorate voted last time.
Approximately 2/3.
2/3.
2/3, yes.
Okay.
Vote
in the federal election.
Exactly.
It's municipal. That's 30%.
Yes.
Okay, we got to do better, guys. Thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you to all the viewers. Looking forward to our participation, collective participation in our democracy.